Well, it's good to see such a large crowd this evening. We're glad you all came out, and you have a treat ahead of you. I've heard two of the speakers already and worked with Darnell White, and so we have a great bit of information to share with you. Now, I asked them for introductions, but I did not get anything. They're that humble. They didn't want a big deal about them. So I came up with my own because I consider them heroes in our community. And one of the things that they have worked on and improved through their music, their art, through their work in the Human Relations Commission, NAACP, and many other housing authorities, they can tell you the rest. But they have been very involved in our community and giving back. And tonight you'll see how they will bring that together with the Rosenwald Schools. They've improved democracy. They have made more awareness on diversity and also acceptance of diversity. And then they're closing the gap with disparity. And this is one of the things that came out with the Rosenwald School is, you know, helping to close the gap then and what it did for our community at that time. And we're continuing to do this. This is a lifelong work in progress. So I'm happy to introduce our first two speakers, and that's Susan Birkhead and Patricia White, and I'll let them carry on from there.
Well, I know I speak for Patricia that we are delighted all of you are here, and thank you so much for your presence and your interest in our story tonight. And we have a story to share.
Susan, do you mind using a microphone?
No, I don't.
And you can't put it too close, not too far. It's got to be just right. You might want to try it. Sorry.
Good. All these things. I am Susan Birkhead, as I was introduced. I have a, can you hear? It's not on. Can you hear me now?
That's perfect.
Okay.
That's just perfect.
My background is in art education. I taught public school here for 15 years, the first full-time art teacher at John A. Holmes High School, and then started a program at my home and taught after-school program. I do want to mention that we're missing one of our co-authors tonight, Sam Harding, who is back at school, and Cynthia, his mother's here. So thank you for being here. We miss Sam so much.
You're not coming across the microphone.
Okay.
We're trying to record too. So.
Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd rather be painting. Not really. We're so glad to be here. Would you raise your hand if you know where Warren Grove Church is in our community? That's great. If you don't, it is 6 miles north on Virginia Road, and it's set back from the highway. And I'm sure many of you have passed Warren Grove many times, going north or traveling to some schools or whatever. And if you know where Warren Grove is, then you know where I live. I am across the road and across the field from Warren Grove. And we have lived there for over 46 years. And I have been stepping out on my front porch all these years to view Warren Grove Missionary Baptist Church. The beautiful sunrises that are unveiled behind the church, the sunsets that cast gorgeous light on the church, and I've been taking photographs of the church. And there are times when I needed to step on that front porch and get myself together. And Warren Grove always helped me in that way. I did know several of the families that attend there when I was younger. And so it holds a very special place in my heart. So taking all these photographs of the church, loving and supportive friends and family recommended that I publish a book of my photographs. I've never been involved in publishing at all. and thought, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to do this. But I figured it was inspired and it was divine, and I needed to just look at the next step or stone, and the path would be lit for me. So that's kind of what I did. So knowing that I was going to publish the book, I thought, well, let's learn some of the history of the church to give the photographs more meaning and depth. And so I found out that Patricia White is the church administrator, so went to her. We also taught way back at John and Holmes, way back. And I asked her if she would be interested in co-authoring the book. And she said she was interested. Neither one of us knew anything about it. And then I also went before the congregation and asked their blessing, and they gave it. So we proceeded with that. I learned so much about the history of the church, but I also learned that there's a Rosenwald School on the church campus. I did not know the first thing about Rosenwald Schools, and that upset me that I was ignorant about these schools. And so I started researching that, and then I was talking to a very close friend who also loves history, and she said, well, Susan, you know it was the first one in North Carolina. I said, no way, no clue. And I thought, why do I not know this? And this is important. So the Rosenwald School was finished in 1915, October 8th, and it was the first one in North Carolina, as I said, out of 817. North Carolina had the most Rosenwald schools of any of the states. And the reason is because of a delegate for Booker T. Washington. And if you want to learn more about that, that's a great rabbit hole to go down. It's very interesting how we had the most. So I also noticed that there's a sign in front of the campus, in front of the Rosenwald building at Warren Grove. And it says Warren Grove School, 1915. So I knew there was great importance of this school. So we decided to incorporate the history of the church and the history of the Rosenwald School in the book. And then we had 480 books printed, and we have about 15 left. So the wonderful thing about it is that the story has reached out. And I talk about it all the time because I want to find out who doesn't know about this like I didn't know. And just to spread the word because it was such an amazing story. So let's go through these a little bit. This is the painting I did of the church, and it's on the jacket in the book. And these are some of the images that are in the book. This was the one I think that really stirred me to do the book. I had no idea I captured lightning. It was a pure accident. And when I looked at the image later, I thought, somebody's telling me something. So I got the message, and I felt like, we must go forward with that. And this is a beautiful photograph that Sam took with his drone. And I will point out that this is before the windmills. So we were talking about that when we were working on the book, far a distance, or quite a few on the Smith farm. I'm going to let Patricia come up at this point and share about the history of the church. Then I'll come and share a little bit about Booker T. Washington and Rosenwald, and then I'll let Patricia close it out, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions if we're able. Patricia?
Well, hello, everybody. For those that don't know me, I am Patricia White. I'm born and reared here in Chowan County. Been going to Warren Grove all my life. And as I keep mentioning, I rummaged through the older part of the building, but didn't realize at that point that it was the first Rosenwald School in North Carolina. But just a little bit of history about Warren Grove. Here you see the log cabin, and they were saying that in the history that the first church was a log cabin, and the land that it is on was donated by James C. Warren. And I just recently found out that they paid $3 for 1 acre of land back then. From there, from the log cabin, the next structure was similar to this, and it was done in 1896. But in 1920, that structure that you saw previously, don't go too fast, that structure you saw previously was the structure that now exists. And then, yeah, that's the structure that now exists, and that was done in 1920. As I was pulling stuff together for our banquet that we had Saturday, we've had approximately 17 ministers from 1875 up through the present. And the one name was Hayes, that ended up with the structure that you see now. His first name was Henry Hayes. Okay, the block around shows the Rosenwald School. It was completed in 1915, and in 1983, we decided to incorporate it first. First, it stood alone. It was nothing there but the church and the Rosenwald School. We renovated in 1983, made it into, we kept the exterior, we kept the interior, just slashed through, went through, and just made it look better, because I can remember even as a child going into that old structure, just rummaging around. I guess many of the ones sitting back there in that corner did the same thing. And after that, they decided, well, hey, we needed more classrooms, we needed more space, so they annexed the part that you see between the church and the Rosenwald building, adding more classrooms and everything. And the last building, that was done in 1994. They added the dining room. Okay, from there, as far as the Rosenwald School, the community purchased and had fundraisers, and it was about $486 that they raised. From the community, it was about $836. And then remember, the Rosenwald funds that were received was just $300, because that's what they had decided that they would give to the different communities to start the building. But because they wanted the interest from the community, that's the reason why they had to also add to that pot. And they had a total of about $1,622 that they built the school with. There is the structure, and what you see behind is the additional renovations when they also added the additional classrooms, because it was just from here to about here. And the picture you see down in the middle, sitting in the chair, shows you the what the floor plan looked like. Okay, that is the outside, the way it was built. And then the next one, you'll see the floor plan for the next one coming forward. This way. This way. Mm-hmm. Shows the floor plan. It was for 2 teachers. And I just recently found out, because we were looking for information dealing with the Eastern Stars, that our first grand matron that we had coming from Edenton was one of the first registered teachers to teach at the Rosenwald School. Her name was Evelina Badham. She was the wife, and maybe you remember Hannibal Badham. She was his wife, and she taught at the Rosenwald School. She also helped form the school that was in the back of Kadesh. So just recently found that out. So we're still digging, trying to find information dealing with all the schools connected with Chowan County. What else? From there, okay, you see the design, the structure, the interior, and that's one of the images that's also in the book as well. And where's my phone? When we started this project, one of the things that we did, we called the members together of those who had gone to the school and just videotaped them, and so also did an audio of their memories of the school. And I have two that I would like to share with you.
Gladys Berry. I was baptized in this church when I was 12 years old.
Thought I had it set. No technology.
Get it as loud as you can say it, please.
My name is Gladys Berry. I was born April 8, 1935. I was raised up on Brayhall Road. We had to walk to school every day, no matter what the weather was. We had to come to school. So we used to get here about 8 o'clock. Of course, Mr. Biddle shop was out of Jonica, so he would have to eat it up with heat when we got here. Reverend Parker had the 4th to the 7th grade. There was another teacher here, Miss Silver Gapper. She taught before Miss Young and Nick Ricks there. So she had 4 rows in her class, and we had 4 rows in our class. Okay. Miss Hicks was our music teacher. We had this partition, and they've been separating the two. We had we started getting a little food here. I think we've been here about 4 or 5 years, and the county started bringing us peanut butter and apple and some milk. Now they didn't give us bread. You had to bring your own plate and your spoon, and that's the way you ate your peanut butter. So we used to have the place. We would have the 4th grade classes, then they would switch to another class. And the 7th, this is 4th grade, but was 7th grade. So we used to go outside during the recess, and on each side of this church, there were 2 big hickory trees. This was our lunch. We had rocks. We would break these hickory trees up and bring in a can, big bin, and pick it out. This is what we would eat during the recess hour. We had our exercises in the back of the school. And we had this. So Reverend Parker always had his devotion every morning. There was a movement petition. And we had to say the prayers. We had to just sing that little song. And we didn't get too much exercise out here because we weren't allowed out that much.
Can you sing the song? Can you sing the song?
Not anymore. I lost my voice. And we all had to learn the preamble. We had to learn that under Reverend Parker. He was a very bad. And if you didn't do right, he knew what to do to you. So I stayed here until in 1948 was when I was sent to Eton High School in 8th grade. I went there in 8th grade, so I was there for 5 years. And after there, I stayed there until I was in 11th grade. And then from 11th grade, that's when they had built a new school, which is now called D.L. Walker, but it was still Eton High School when I was here.
Do you have a favorite subject?
All of ours was favorite. I used to brag when I was a straight A student.
That's great.
But I was in school twice. I got sent home. I had to walk from Edenton to my house. You could not eat on our campus. And everybody was bringing their things on the campus to eat. And I was behind 3 girls one day, and they had bags in their hand. And my principal, Mr. D.L. Walker, which I don't like today, he's gone. He called me to his office, and he says, you can't ride the bus home. I was only 13 years old. And I said, ride the bus home. I never went to Eton unless I went on a car. He made me walk from Eton to out of here. This is where I was living. And he said, you can't come back to school until your mother brings you back. My mother was in the field picking cotton and working. She didn't have time for that. I said, well, I can't go to school until you take me back. And she said, well, I don't think you're going back then. And I said, I gotta go back to school. So she sent me back on Thursday. She sent me back on Friday. And he sent me back home again on Friday. I had to walk that distance again from Eton out here to the house. And that's a good 5 or 6 miles. And I walked it by myself. So she finally got me back to school.
How old were you then when you walked?
When I walked,
when
I
you
was
walked.
13. That was my first year there. I was in 8th grade. It wasn't that easy going on, but we had to be eating everything what went on May Day. 1st of May was May Day for us, and we would leave our school. Everybody would go to White House School, and that's where we would have our plays and playing ball and high jumping and running. We did all of that on May 1st. So, and then I graduated from Eton School. I didn't never get to walk to D.L. Walker High School. Mine was Eton School. We were the first class to graduate there. 53 students. It was the biggest class they ever had there when we were there.
What year was that?
In 1935.
30.
No, boy. 8 years after that. 53, yeah. 1953 when I graduated.
And if I remember right, when we did the taping, it wasn't long after that she passed.
It was a strange story. Miss Hicks knew my mother, and because of my birthday, I wasn't allowed to start school early. And Miss Hicks told my mother, look, she can read and write, bring her out here, and I will teach her. But other people started to send their children out here, say, if she can go, then my child can go. So I was only here, like I said, for 5 days. Miss Hicks was our teacher. Mr. Reverend Parker had one side of the building, Miss Hicks had the other. I remember Miss Hicks's classes going from east to, her seats going from east to west, and Reverend Parker went from north to south. And there was a screen between the 2 classrooms. We'd come in the morning, we'd say a prayer, we'd sing a song, and then she would start the class. And until today, I still love to read and write.
Did you have music and like sing hymns or?
She would sing a hymn in the morning when we started. After, that was the first song she would sing a hymn, and we would say, "The Our Father." And that was about it. And I enjoyed the 5 days I was here because I got to play outside with the other children. So I had an uncle and an aunt who went to school here, so I was acquainted with the school. We came to plays. The stage was in Miss Hicks's room. So whenever they put on any kind of assembly, they opened the petition and turned all the seats to face the stage.
Do you remember any of the things you recited or sang?
No, I don't recall that right now.
How about lunch? Did you bring your
You have
own?
to bring your lunch. If you live right around in this area, you can walk home to go, for your lunch. But I brought lunch. I came with my aunt every morning, and I felt like a princess because mommy would just put me on my little dresses and the clothes in my hand.
Do you remember the year you started?
Oh, yes, 1949. And the following year, the school closed, and we all went to Eaton to go to school. And I spent my kindergarten, my first year of school, full year of school, as you should say, in the old Eaton High School before it was burned down. And there we had half-day classes because the school was not that large. So if you went first and second grade, you started school and if you lived in the country, you had the afternoon session. And if you lived in town, you were in the morning session. And we spent the day with the teacher in the auditorium until it was time to go to the classroom.
Did you how are the desks arranged or?
Miss Hicks' desk was this way, and she had, I think it was like 7 or 8 kids in a row, and she had, I'm not sure, I think it was 5 rows across.
Did you study a little bit of everything? Math, spelling, reading?
You did writing, reading, that I remember, and the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, because we were first graders. But I remember she had, I think, to the 3rd grade, and then Reverend Parker picked up with the 4th grade.
Do you remember how many people were in the school in total?
No, I don't.
Or just an approximate number?
In Miss Hicks's class, there might have been 20, 25 children in all, combined classes that she has.
What year were you born?
1943.
Anything else you remember?
No, can't think of anything else right now. 1943. Just Google it.
And if you remember, I think it was Miss Gladys that said that she would, her first school was in, I think, Bray Hall. Her family moved, so then she went to Warren Grove. There was also Rosenwald School in Green Hall. And I can remember my mother saying, hey, where she lived on Green Hall Road, she had to walk at least 5 miles to get to that particular Rosenwald School that came later. D.F. Walker at Eaton High School, the first building was there. The building that was destroyed by fire was also a Rosenwald School. And I believe there are 8 classrooms, I think, if I remember right, 8 classrooms. Now, I did have classes in that when I was growing up in the 4th grade. And by that time, they had added additional buildings. And I think it was the newest building, the 5th through the 8th. I was in that new building, but I did get a chance to get to a Rosenwald school. But as I was saying, because I'm not that old, but I'm old. So I didn't get a chance to go to the first one. So that was one of the reasons why we enlisted the help of some of the members who did attend. And there's one other member, and he couldn't make it today. He had some appointments, and that was Miss Emma's brother that also attended the school. And like I said, he would have been here to tell some of his memories as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This oral history that you obtained is going to be invaluable, and we need to do more of that in our community, is getting oral history from the people who have lived experiences that we've never lived before. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yes, Sam Harding, our videographer and book editor, he was great about jumping on board. Sam was, I think, 15 when I approached him. I said, would you like to help be the photography editor for the book? and book that we're going to do on Warren Grove, and he said, sure. He had no idea. And he's so invested in the book, and we love that we've been able to watch Sam grow over the past few years. I'm going to kind of go through a little quickly about Rosenwald, Julius Rosenwald, and Booker T. Washington. As we know, during that time period, the Jim Crow South was a very difficult time for African Americans. You know, we look at this, and liberty and justice did not exist for all. It did not. And appropriated money for education was disproportionately awarded to white students. So if black children went to school at all, it was in very dilapidated, substandard conditions. So that's what existed. So on the screen, you will see how do we go from substandard schools to over 5,000 in the South? Well, it's because of these two men, Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington. They came together to form the greatest philanthropic collaboration the educational history of our country has ever seen, and has not happened again. And here's how they did it, and I have to say, without Congress. Sorry. So Julius Rosenwald was a German Jewish immigrant. His family came to the States, and they had a clothing business. He kind of rose in terms of the business with management and finances and creative ideas. He eventually became the president of Sears, Roebuck and Company. He amassed great wealth. I will mention that it was his idea to do the Sears and Roebuck catalog. By age 40, he was extremely wealthy. And because of his Jewish heritage and his Jewish beliefs of tzedakah, he believed in charity and kindness and sharing the wealth. And he immediately began doing that. At some point, one of his business friends handed him a book, Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington's autobiography. I highly recommend that you read this. It's so interesting. And so Julius Rosenwald read it, and he felt like he wanted to meet this great man. So he pursued a meeting with Booker T. Washington. And there's the Sears Roebuck that he built from the ground up. Okay, so let's meet Booker T. Washington. And I'm sure some of you know the story behind these two. But Booker T. Washington was born into slavery in 1856, and I was born in 1956, on a farm in Franklin, Virginia. It was a small farm, so they did not have that many slaves. But his mother, Jane, was the cook, and she became pregnant with a white man on an adjacent farm, and had Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington never knew who his father was. This is the kitchen cabin where they lived, and she raised her children in this space and cooked for the family. Life was very hard. I will mention real quick that Booker T. Washington did not get his first shirt until he was 7. And it was a rough flax shirt, and it was so itchy, his older brother took it from him and said, I'll break it in. And he wore it until it was softer, but that was a big deal. This is what it looked like inside. We visited the Booker T. Washington National Monument Park, and so I was able to take these pictures. It's much smaller than that. It's about 14 by 16. The Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 freed all African American slaves. Booker T. Washington decided to get an education, which he did, It's in his autobiography, his story about how he did that. And then when he was older, he was such a great student, he wanted to continue his education. So from West Virginia, he walked, rode a cart, hitched a ride to Hampton Institute. And there he got his education. From there, he rose in the ranks in terms of academics, and he was a fabulous speaker, and eventually was called down to Tuskegee to buy a farm and build Tuskegee Institute. And here is a picture of it during the time when buildings began to go up. The students learned everything. They learned sewing and cooking, brick masonry. They learned farming and cattle and everything. And all the bricks you see here were made by the students. So Booker T. Washington was very, very concerned about the state of education. And he met Julius Rosenwald in 1910, and they decided we've got to do something about it. So Booker T. Washington and Tuskegee students designed the floor plans. There were 5 floor plans for the schools. This is what Warren Grove probably was designed after. Here's a tinted photograph too of the floor plan. This is a stove that might have been in it, desk. And Julius Rosenwald, as Patricia said, contributed matching funds. So the community had to raise funds, and that wasn't just put your money in a basket. That was selling eggs and working hard to raise these funds. And then the school system provided a third as well. And Rosenwald loved it, and he visited the schools many times and really enjoyed the children. By the time the program ended in 1932, when Rosenwald died, that was in his will, that the program end when he passed. All these black dots you see on the map from Maryland to Texas are Rosenwald schools. Some of the schools had other buildings for the teachers and other supplemental needs that they had. This is a sign by Taco Bell here in Eatonton to commemorate the Rosenwald School. And then this is another photograph that's in the book. I think this is when Sam was sharing his contributions to the book. Sam, here we go. Sam loves trains and is quite a photographer. So, you have to remember what it took for this to happen. And that 2 men came together from very different backgrounds and did what I call loaves and fishes, and also needs and sleeves. They saw the need and they rolled up their sleeves and they jumped in, and it happened. And then why aren't these structures still around? Well, when they desegregated the schools, many of them went into a state of disrepair. And so there are only about 10% that are left. Some were repurposed into other buildings for other needs. So it's a big deal that Warren Grove has their Rosenwald School and their first one. And this is a photograph that Sam took. We were out there one night when choir practice was going on. So we were able to listen to them sing. If you haven't heard the Warren Grove Choir, you have missed it. But isn't that beautiful at night? And so some of the posters we have here show the schools. Over there are posters of Booker T. Washington, and I have some other resource books. And I also have books available if any of you would like to purchase one. And I have some note cards of my design. So they're in the table out front. So I'm going to turn it back over to Patricia. You're done? She done. So, any questions? We really skimmed through it, but it's just an amazing story to explore. Any questions? Yes.
I just have a comment. We had somebody, I think, who was doing a PBS special about Rosenwald Schools. I think they knew about Warren Grove. They didn't know about St. John's. And they said it was interesting how they still had the divider that was still there. Do you still have that at Warren Grove?
No, we don't. We have the big beam that separates the two.
Yeah.
We have that, yes.
I think it's so wonderful that it's being celebrated and remembered that, it's just part of our history and part of the history that many whites especially don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I was
I
shocked
think it's very important.
and felt, that I was ignorant, that I did not know about this. But I will say the greatest joy for me was not knowing this journey, and then the collaboration between me and Patricia and Sam. It was just phenomenal, and how everybody contributed, and how Warren Grove congregation has celebrated this. And we never dreamed that we would end up on this stage at the Museum of History, sharing this story, and also the choir performed. And that was a very special day. So the story has really grown far and wide, and we want to keep continuing. And I forgot to introduce my daughter, Ashley. Hey. She came with me. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
We're really blessed in this area to also have another Rosenwald School, and that's St. John. And you raised the issue about the partition. That is a freestanding building on Indian Trail Road. We still have the original potbelly stove that was referenced in your pictures, as well as the petition.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Pat.
Susan, I work with the Reads Across America, and they have 3, we did it with Vietnam veterans. They have 3 Vietnam casualty veterans buried out here. And I don't know how many times we went and did the ceremony in December. But you sang last time we did. But, and how the congregation all came to the cemetery and joined us in this ceremony.
That's very special.
How large a congregation is it right now?
We're looking at approximately about 250.
This image includes their current pastor, Reverend Michael Foreman, and his wife, Miss Phyllis, and y'all refer to her as Queen. They are phenomenal too. I just love both of them. They also have these beautiful stained glass windows inside. You saw that from the night picture. These are some more of my photographs. I've shared this many times on Easter morning. The light is always on. And this is the last photograph in the book, and it's a quote from Booker T. Washington. And it says, "We should all rise above the clouds of ignorance, narrowness, and selfishness."
Amen.
And we want this history to be preserved. We do not want this erased. Any other questions? Yes.
The church is still a functioning congregation.
Oh, yes.
What is the school, the classrooms that are there, how is that utilized or at this time?
The Rosenwald building,
The actual school.
I would say a fellowship hall, Sunday school,
We have
classrooms,
outside as
yeah.
well.
kitchen.
But used for the church as opposed to actually having an educational public school type situation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more comment, that, when these people came from PBS, they said the other thing that people don't realize is that these schools were used as community centers. Adults came and they did dinners and classes. I mean, there were things that the adults did as well. And there way, when, this is a comment they made, and I'd like to hear what you would have to say about it, but when integration took place, they lost a little bit of that sense of community, according to these people who were presenting, because now they were in the schools, and they lost that place that they would go and gather. I don't know, is that,
Well, and I think too, to add to that, that the church was the heart of the community.
that's true too, yes.
And so that's why many schools are built on the church property.
Was Hannibal Badham
I have
involved in the
a
design or
couple of
building of the
questions.
church?
One was, do you think that because Mr. Rosenwald was into Sears Roebuck and everything else, do you think that might be a reason he partnered with Booker T instead of J.B. Du Bois?
That got a little political, and it's worth researching if you like.
Okay. My second question is there some kind of movement to restore more? I remember, and I think he may be on the Bertie Council now, somebody said there's one in Bertie, he said, I wish somebody would do something with it.
Well, yes, many schools are being, worked on, there's funding, grants.
And my last question is, considering what's happening to Smithsonian and everything else, I guess it's gonna have to be private funding because, there are people trying as hard as they can to erase this very thing.
Well, there's a copy of the book, the Library of Congress. So it's sealed.
And I'm gonna ask you to save your questions to later, because we do have a speaker on St. John's Rosenwald School. So, Darnell, are you ready to say? She was a former student, so you get to see someone who used to go to a Rosenwald.
We have living history.
Good afternoon. I'm Darnell White, and I'm the niece of Reverend Simeon Nathaniel Griffith that started their Rosenwald School at St. John Community. First, I'm sorry that they couldn't find the slide of the building down there, and I thought I had it, but I just had the interviews that the people came from the television company. Okay, Reverend Nathaniel Griffith was born in Georgetown, British Guiana, in February 11, 1889. He came to the United States in 1905 to get an education. He had gotten his doctorate degree, and then he went and got his divinity. And he was the pastor of St. John's Episcopal Church there on Church Street for numerous years. And his wife, Maddie Griffith, was the organist. He was ordained in 1911, September 24th, 1911. Okay, let's see. I didn't have mine written out like she did because I didn't know I was gonna have to do all that presentation. But we do have, I think, 3 or 4 people that's down in the community now that can talk or say something about the school. And the school was named, it's one of the largest Rosenwald school that's we have here. And let me see, the largest of several Rosenwald schools constructed in Chowan County during the 1920s. St. John is a landmark of the improvement of education facilities for the country African American children during the early 20th century. Following plans supplied to the local school district by the Rosenwald Foundation and similar to other four teachers. They only had 4 teachers there. And there was 3 classrooms. So the first grade was here, second grade was here. And you had 1 teacher that was teaching both. So while the children were doing their lesson over there first grade, you were working with the second grade students. And therefore, they learned, the first grade students was learning what the second grade students were doing. So it was like a family affair and everything. There was teachers, 4 teachers there that came out, and let's see, the school, the St. John displayed the board, graph, the roof that they had back in those olden days, and they had the windows that the children could see because of the light. They didn't have fluorescent lights and stuff like they have now. So they did that. Rosenwald School was built in North Carolina between 1918 and 30. St. John is the sole survivor of 3 such schools erected east of the Chowan River. That is still in existence because if you, it's still down there and it's a community center now. But their structure is the same. They have the petition that you raise up when we were going to have assembly so everybody could be in the same room. So that's still like that. It's no different. They just cut up, put an office there. But other than that, you had your cafeteria. And in our cafeteria, we had a garden outside. So the garden served as the food. And your children went out there and helped plant the garden, and the parents. So therefore, you didn't have to pay for lunches and stuff. Nobody went hungry. Everybody ate from that garden and everything. Okay, I'm skipping something. Okay, in January 27th, the construction started and it was completed. And the price of the cost came to $433.97 plus $13.03 tax. Where could we build a building today for that amount? Okay. The same firm supplied the window shades the next year at the cost of $90.95. So we had people donating and everything, the shades for the windows and everything. The complete building was inspected and accepted by the school board on February 7, 1927. Perry was paid a total of $4,000, and he's a construction people, $4,297.50 for his work, with an additional $50 because they needed like a wood house, so they could put the wood out there, and the children were cutting it up, the older children, okay? The construction process came full circle in early 1928, with the old St. John School building was sold to Andrew Horton for $35. Its construction at an unspecified date was reported to have cost $437.50, and the old school site transferred back to former Hale G. Wood at the original purchase price of $10. The school in 1932 and 33, St. John operated until 1950. That's when they were consolidated and came to D.F. Walker. After which, local public attended D.F. Walker School in Egypt. The St. John School property was eventually acquired by John T. and Zenobia Sawyer, who in 1952 had purchased John Roberts' dwelling. The school remained in the ownership of the Sawyer heirs. The teachers were Reverend Simeon Nathaniel Griffith, Mrs. Lauren Luton, and daughter Sadie Batten Hawkins, and Elizabeth Brown. When they went over, we had Miss Willie Mae Winfield, we had Mrs. Floretta Blunt, and Reverend Simeon Nathaniel Griffith. Those were the three last teachers that they had there. Miss Elizabeth Bird had gone to D.F. Walker, and she was working there. So it was three teachers left to do the work there. I think I've covered. I have three people that might want to say something about their experience down there. I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
She did a great job, and the thing that she said, right. And Arm and her are the same age, so we went right along with each other. And we didn't. I don't think we didn't know anything about the classification of it. Church. So all we was doing, when we say that we want something, people are going to say, well, what you want? And right there, write the name down, and they put it down, and you'd be surprised at what they do. People, we had a good time now. Me and Darnell and Pastor, and you name it, they was right there. We didn't have voices mostly. We had music, and then we would be able to do what we wanted. We could drive on the statements like the garden. Now everybody had a garden just about, and Reverend Griffin, he had a garden, but he didn't know. But we had to give it to him, and we gave it to him like it was good. It was good feeding and everything. And I don't know a whole lot to talk about it. I thank you all for coming down. And we went by Donnie, and she did a good job.
When we were in the classroom, and we were up to the bulletin on the board writing. And if we did our timetables wrong, and the teacher told us one time that 2 times 2 is 4, and when he came back to us, we couldn't get it right. Well, back then, you could get a spanking. Because that's how we learn. And if you got a spanking and for missing it, I'm gonna learn from that. So I'm not gonna make the same error that you did. But really, it was really a rewarding experience to go to a school like that where, people really cared about you. And it's not like this generation now. And that's why I guess we can't get no teachers, because we need to go back to that old time. Okay. All right. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I did not have a slideshow like Warren Grove, but we're still above board, and the building's right down there on Indian Trail Road, and they have church programs there. They have what else y'all have out there? Repasses and everything. People can rent the building, right?
It's our community.
Okay, all right. So that's still in use, and they have done a lot of work, changing windows and everything. Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
We have a small gift that we would like to give to both of the schools and churches, and they are in the form of 2 books. I noticed that you have some of the books, but I'm sure you can use them at Warren Grove. but they are 2 books on the Rosenwald Schools, and we'll give each of the schools one of those. And we also purchased through the Friends of the Library 2 books for our library. We had nothing on the Rosenwald Schools in our library here, so this has brought us a great awareness to have those books available, not only here, but to continue the story and the history through your work and your storytelling to all of us. Thank you very much.
And we have it on the road.
Thank you, Darnell. Thank you.